On a sunny afternoon at a local park, what started as a fun game of basketball took a dramatic turn no one saw coming. A young black girl, full of talent and confidence, was enjoying her time on the court when an older white woman decided she didn't belong there. With an air of entitlement, the woman demanded she leave, insisting the space wasn't for people like her. The tension quickly grew as bystanders watched in disbelief, unsure of how things would unfold. But what this woman didn't know was that the girl wasn't alone. Her father, a respected state senator, soon arrived, and he wasn't about to let anyone disrespect his daughter. As he walked onto the scene, his presence immediately shifted the energy. What happened next left everyone stunned and taught an unforgettable lesson about courage, dignity, and standing up for what's right. The young girl, a middle school basketball star known for her skills and determination, had been coming to this court for months to practice. It was her safe space, a place where she felt free to express herself and hone her talent. But on this day, the atmosphere changed when the woman appeared, her tone sharp and dismissive. She claimed the court was reserved for her group, despite no signs or rules to back her up. The girl, calm but firm, explained she had every right to be there. Meanwhile, her father, Senator Marcus Hayes, was just wrapping up a meeting nearby when he received a text from his daughter. She didn't ask for help, she never did, but something in her message felt off. As he arrived and saw the situation unfolding, his protective instincts kicked in. He calmly approached, but his presence alone spoke volumes. Eyes turned to him, and the woman's expression shifted. The air grew heavy as Senator Hayes walked toward his daughter, his calm yet commanding demeanor impossible to ignore. The woman, who moments earlier seemed so confident in her demands, began to fidget. "Excuse me, is there a problem here?" he asked, his voice steady but firm. Before the woman could respond, the girl spoke up, explaining how the woman had insisted she leave. Her words were clear and measured, but anyone could see the hurt in her eyes. The woman, now flustered, tried to defend herself, claiming it was all a misunderstanding. She stumbled over her words, saying something about rules and respect for others, but her tone betrayed her discomfort. Bystanders who had been quietly watching started to murmur, some pulling out their phones to record the interaction. As the senator listened, his expression remained calm, but his mind raced. This wasn't just about a basketball court, it was about something much bigger. The crowd around the court grew larger, with whispers spreading like wildfire. Some defended the young girl, pointing out that public spaces belong to everyone. Others stayed silent, unsure of how to react. The woman, visibly uneasy under the growing attention, raised her voice, claiming she wasn't being disrespectful and accusing the girl of overreacting. But Senator Hayes stood his ground, his calm presence unshaken. He looked directly at the woman. "Ma'am, I'd like to know what rule you think my daughter has broken by being here." His words were polite but carried a weight that made everyone stop. The woman hesitated, her confident facade slipping. "It's not about rules," she stammered. "It's about being considerate of others." The senator raised an eyebrow. "So, consideration means excluding a child from a public court?" His voice carried just enough edge to make the woman falter further. Phones captured every second as the tension reached its peak. Just as it seemed the woman had no way to justify her actions, another man stepped onto the court. Dressed in a crisp polo shirt and carrying a clipboard, he walked straight toward the senator and the woman. "What's going on here?" he asked, glancing between them. The woman immediately turned to him, relief washing over her face. "Oh, thank goodness. This is the organizer," she said, her tone shifting as if she'd been vindicated. The man introduced himself as someone overseeing a local event scheduled to take place on the court later that day. "We do have a reservation for this space," he said, "but that starts in an hour. Until then, it's open to the public." His words should have clarified everything, but instead, they added fuel to the fire. The woman's face turned red as she realized she had no authority to demand anyone leave, and yet she wasn't ready to back down. Turning to the girl, the woman muttered, Well, some people still need to learn respect. The subtle jab didn't go unnoticed. Senator Hayes stepped forward, his calm demeanor now carrying a sharper edge. Respect is a two-way street, he said, his voice loud enough for everyone to hear. The crowd leaned in, sensing this wasn't over yet. The tension was at its peak, and all eyes were on Senator Hayes as he stood tall, his presence commanding the moment. He looked directly at the woman, his voice steady but firm. You talk about respect, but respect isn't about who you think belongs here. It's about treating everyone with dignity. The crowd murmured in agreement, the weight of his words resonating with everyone watching. The woman opened her mouth to respond, but before she could, the man with the clipboard stepped in again. "Ma'am," he said, his tone more authoritative now, "if the court is open until our event starts, then everyone here has equal rights to use it. If there's no issue, I suggest we leave it at that." But just as the tension seemed to ease, a bystander holding their phones spoke up. "Actually, I've been recording this whole thing. I think people should see how this played out." The woman froze, her expression shifting to one of panic. She looked around at the phones pointed at her and realized there was no way to control the narrative now. Senator Hayes turned to his daughter, gently placing a hand on her shoulder. "You ready to keep playing?" he asked with a smile. She nodded, her confidence restored. The woman, red-faced and flustered, quietly left the court, the whispers of the crowd trailing her. As the father and daughter picked up their basketball and resumed their game, the energy shifted. The crowd, now smaller, cheered her on as she sank her first shot. It wasn't just about basketball anymore. It was about standing up, speaking out, and proving that no one gets to decide who belongs. As the game continued, the atmosphere on the court transformed into something uplifting. The girl played with a renewed sense of confidence, her father watching proudly from the sidelines. The crowd, now a mix of supportive strangers, stayed to cheer her on, their energy creating a sense of unity that replaced the earlier tension. The incident became a lesson for everyone present, about courage, respect, and the importance of standing up for what's right, no matter how uncomfortable it might feel. Senator Hayes, ever the example of composure and strength, took a moment to speak to the bystanders before leaving. "We all have a responsibility to make spaces like this welcoming for everyone," he said, his words met with applause. As the girl left the court with her father, she looked up at him and smiled. "Thanks for being there, Dad," he smiled back. "Always." The court, now alive with positivity, was once again just a place for basketball, community, and belonging.